After getting everything set up for the 100% zone lock in the previous video, which I recommend watching before this one if you haven't already, I can finally begin the first zone, which is of course Bleakrock Isle. The Ebonheart Pact is similar to the Daggerfall Covenant in the same way that these two alliances both have two starter zones. The Daggerfall Covenant having Stros Mackay and then Betnik, and the Ebonheart Pact having Bleakrock Isle and then Bal Foyen. However, I have already done these first two starter zones, but because they are short, I will do Bleakrock, Bal Foyen and Stonefalls in this video. But before I get started with the completion of the zone, I will first show you what I did with all the gold I had gained by the end of the first video. Pretty much, I just wanted more backpack space, and so I went over to the pack merchant and got all of the upgrades for it. But anyway, let's briefly go over what I need to do in order to 100% Bleakrock Isle. Oh, and also if you're interested in any MMO content, then please consider subscribing to the channel. The zone has only two achievements, one called the Hero of Bleakrock for finding all the missing villagers, which is essentially just doing all of the quests. And then there is the first fishing achievement, which unlike other zones that have 12 different rare fish to catch, the starter zones only have one each, and so even though I already had this achievement, I decided to do it again anyway, before starting any of the quests. It didn't take too long, probably about 2 minutes or so went by, and I had the first rare fish of the series, an inner sea scalyfin. As Bleakrock is the first zone for the Ebonheart Pact, it serves as a way to ease new players into questing and exploring. Starting off the zone quest, I had to talk to Captain Rana, who has fears of an imminent invasion that is threatening the island. In order to get the Hero of Bleakrock achievement, you have to round up all of the island's inhabitants by completing 3 main zone story quests, as well as the side quests. I started off by finding Darge the Hunter, who was found just outside of Skyshroud Barrow. He was injured by the undead skeletons that have recently begun to defend the area. And so we need to summon the ghost of a dragon priest and then find the 3 runestones to unseal the barrow. Once I get inside, I found a necromancer named Severin Charnis, who was sent by the Daggerfall Covenant, as we learn through reading a nearby letter which confirms Captain Rana's worries. After finding a few more villagers, I made my way to Orkey's Hollow, where I had to help a woman named Rolunda find her brother who got trapped in some ice by an insane Bosmer ghost only known as the Frozen Man. In order to get Ironman, the man stuck in the ice, free of it, I had to play a couple of games with the ghost and had to figure out who he really is. After doing that successfully, Ironman and Rolunda are reunited and made their way back to the village. The next quest required me to find a dark elf woman named Sergeant Sane, who is just outside of a mining village trying to uncover the suspicious activity going on within the mine. She gives us the task to infiltrate the village to discover what is actually going on. We do exactly that by finding evidence that the bandits have cut a deal with the Daggerfall Covenant to create a distraction by reopening a portal to Oblivion that can be found inside of the mine. And so of course we need to get inside and stop it. After this is done and all the villagers are gathered, we can begin to evacuate, but after lighting the beacon fire, the village begins to get attacked by the Covenant, and so we instead have to help some of the villagers again. Once this is done, we all escape through the last rest tomb, and when we get to the other side, we can get passage to Bal Foyen from an Argonian named Wind in Sails. With all this done, I had completed the first zone of the series. It took me about 2 hours and 43 minutes to get everything done. Now luckily, I've already got all of the trainee set unlocked, so I don't need to grind for the set in any of the starter zones, but this will change very soon. So Bal Foyen is an extremely short and quick zone with only 3 zone story quests that take place within the zone itself, and only 4 side quests. Also, it's quite disappointing because this zone doesn't have any achievements at all, so I won't spend too much time talking about this zone. After arriving safely to Bal Foyen with the survivors from Bleakrock, I first had to light the beacon in the nearby watchtower to warn the city of Davon's Watch of the attack. However, things get a bit more complicated as we find that the watchtower has been raided, but we also learn that the watchtower cannot be lit with normal fire, but instead has to use a special type of kindle pitch powder that creates a green flame. With none left at the tower itself, we are forced to travel to the nearby Fort Zeren to ask the quartermaster there for some powder, but she also doesn't have any left. So instead we are told to travel to the docks as they will have some to spare. Now that I had the powder, I made my way to the signal fires on the coast and lit them to warn Davon's Watch. Even though I successfully lit the signal fires, the Daggerfall Covenant began their invasion and attacked both Fort Zeren and the docks at the same time. This is where we are given a choice as to which place to defend, and depending on where you choose to go, there are consequences. You see, in ESO there are choices for the player to make, but the majority of the time they don't even matter. I guess you could say that this one also doesn't matter, as it has no real impact on the story, but it does affect who lives and who dies. So for example, because I chose to go defend the docks and aid Captain Rana, this meant that Dodge the Hunter and the few Bleakrock inhabitants that are there end up dying and will not be seen in the future zones. Anyway, now that we successfully repelled the invasion, I am required to travel to the next zone, which is Stonefalls, and speak to Hogan at Davon's Watch. Because of how short this zone was, it took only 1 hour and 54 minutes to complete all of the content. Stonefalls is where the series truly starts, as I have a much longer list of activities to do, some achievements associated with the zone to unlock, and 3 item sets to complete, and that's not including the dungeon sets. If we take a look at the spreadsheet, it took almost 19 hours to complete the whole zone, with most of my time being taken up by the side quests, which will most likely be a common theme throughout the whole series. Also, just for fun, I am going to add up all of the gold I make from all quests in the game, just to see how much I get by the end. So as you can see, by the end of Stonefalls, I had got 47,276 gold from doing all of the quests in the 3 zones featured in this video. Whilst we are on the topic of gold, remember that I am giving away 7 million gold if we can reach 5,000 subscribers by the end of the year. So if you want a chance at winning some gold, then please subscribe to the channel. Anyway, for all the zones, I have planned to get started immediately with the main story for the zone, but instead I had to make a detour. Basically, what I need to do every single day is steal a bunch of items that I can sell or launder to a fence in order to give me XP towards the Legerdemain skill, which can take quite a while to level up. Also, another reason why I wanted to do this is because for this current day, it was a daily endeavour to launder 5 items, and for those who don't know, daily endeavours are essentially small daily challenges that reward you with a currency called Seals of Endeavour, which you can then use to buy a wide array of things such as appearances or mounts. I'm going to try my best to save up 16,000 seals so I can buy a Radiant Apex mount. I currently have 4,470 seals, so when I get enough I will make sure to showcase me buying them out in a future video. Whilst I was in the process of stealing items to sell and launder, I managed to unlock 2 achievements. I first got Pocket Picker, which is for successfully pickpocketing someone. And then I got Finder's Keepers, which is for looting a thieves trove. Then after laundering the items, I got Loot Cleaner for spending 100 gold to launder stolen items. Anyway, another thing I have to do every day is my daily crafting writs. These are basically just quick and easy crafting quests that require me to make some weapons or armour for the war effort in Cyrodiil. They include all of the basic crafting types as well as jewellery crafting. However, I won't be able to start this for some time as the quest to introduce it is located in Somerset, which I won't be visiting for a while. The reason it is so good to do these daily quests every single day is because you get a bunch of crafting materials, including the chance to get legendary tempers and crafting surveys. But also, at level 50 you get over 4,000 gold per day, which is a good way to make some money, which I will need a lot of in order to buy all of the houses, so every little helps. With all that now done, I was ready to start the main story for Stonefalls. This zone story is much longer than the previous 2 zones, so I'll try my best to explain it briefly. After reaching Davon's Watch, a city in the northwest of Stonefalls, we find Hogan, the commander of the city, who requests our aid to stop the Covenant that are laying siege to the north part of the city. He leads us to a dark elf named Tamvel Indaril, and after speaking to him, he tells us to go into his family crypt to retrieve the skull of one of his ancestors. He uses this skull to perform a ritual to summon one of the Brothers of Strife, who is named Balreth. Balreth was created out of desperation by Chimera mages in the First Era, and 2 of the Chimera had to be sacrificed in order to accomplish it, with the first one of course being Balreth. However, after becoming too dangerous, he was imprisoned within Ash Mountain. Tamvel released him with hopes that once again Balreth will save Stonefalls from the invaders, which he does so successfully by raining down fire on the Covenant fleet. But the problem now is that Balreth is free and Tamvel doesn't know how to bind him again to Ash Mountain. With this new problem, I had to travel to Ash Mountain with the goal to learn how the mages in the First Era imprisoned Balreth, and you do this by essentially travelling back in time, with the help from the ghost of the Chimeri mage named Mavos Sillereth, who was one of the original people there to seal him away. Now that we know how to perform the ritual, we use it to re-imprison Balreth back into Ash Mountain where he belongs. With this threat now put to bed, so to speak, we learn news of a Covenant invasion force landing on the shore west of Ebonheart at a place called Vivek's Antlers. The Covenant here is being led by a Breton commander named Alexandra Cannell, who wants to secure a powerful artifact called the Coral Heart that she wants to use to try and control the other brother of Strife, who is named Sadel. But fortunately, we managed to stop Alexandra and took the Coral Heart to Holgan for safekeeping. After speaking to Holgan, we find out that the Covenant has been successful in taking control of Fort Virac under the command of General Serion. We learn that the Covenant are using necromancy to reanimate the soldiers, which is why they have lasted so long. When we finally confront the general, he kills Tamval's son, which causes him to become irrational. But on the brighter side, I got the achievement General Severin's Demise for stopping the Covenant invasion of Stonefalls. Anyway, he takes the Coral Heart from Hogan and uses it to awake the second and stronger brother of Strife, Sadal, who is imprisoned in the Tormented Spire located near Kraganmore. When we catch up with Tamval, we find out that he successfully used the Coral Heart to summon Sadal, but unlike Balref, Sadal attacked Tamval immediately and wounded him. So now we need to talk to 3 of the Chimeri mages, including Mavos, who helped us contain Balref, to learn how to bind Sadal. In order to get access to Sadal's prison, we need to get 3 focus stones from each of their trials. After we have them, the portal opens, allowing us to enter. Now that all is left to do is to have the final battle against Sadal. The battle ends with Tamval rushing towards Sadal with all the magic he can, and sacrifices himself to right the wrongs that he had caused. This sacrifice allowed us to seal Sadal away for good, and now Stonefalls is safe from both the Covenant as well as the Brothers of Strife. With the story now done in Stonefalls, I had unlocked 3 more achievements. First, I got Stonefalls Adventurer for completing 59 unique quests within Stonefalls. However, I'm pretty sure this achievement is retroactive and counted the quests done on other characters. Anyway, I then got Sadal's Overthrower for destroying Sadal, and finally Hearts of Darkness for imprisoning the Brothers of Strife. I was originally going to share my thoughts about the zone story, but I think I'll save it for a different video where I rank all of the zones for each alliance. With the story now done, it was time to move on to the cleanup of the side content. I decided to first start off with the remaining way shrines and then explore all of the striking locales, which are kind of like little landmarks that are sometimes associated with a quest. There are a total of 7 to explore in Stonefalls. There is Stillwater's Camp, Strive Swarm Quama Mine, Stonefang Isle, Dagger's Point Invasion Camp, Devoness Farm, Grey Mist Falls, and finally Steam Lake Camp. These locations have a small amount of loot, books or scrolls to read, and of course in some cases they have quest relevance. After finding all of them, I got the achievement Stonefalls Pathfinder. Next, I decided to tackle the 6 delves. I had done 3 of them before, so I had already unlocked the achievements related to them. But the ones that I did get achievements for were Softloam Cavern, which I had to defeat an orc soldier named Dugrel, a Daedric ruin named Shirogoraf's Tongue, where I had to defeat 2 Argonians, one named Desanu and the other called Calls in Nature, and finally an abandoned mine called High Tide Hollow, where I had to defeat an orc mage called Udigu that somehow infiltrated a goblin tribe and became its leader. After completing all of these, I unlocked 5 achievements, 1 each for clearing the remaining 3 dungeons, 1 for completing all 6 delves in Stonefalls, and finally the Master Explorer achievement for completing all the delves and finding all the striking locales in Stonefalls. Up next, I found every set station, which are small areas that have crafting stations that can create a specific set. Then I found all of the Munder stones, which are stones that give you a permanent buff, but you can only have 1 active at a time. Then of course I went for the remaining sky shards that can be found in the overworld. Whilst these are all required for the 100%, they are quite uninteresting to talk about, so I won't really talk about them again in future videos. It was after this when I decided to do the world bosses that I realised that the build I was using was pretty decent at doing damage, but was extremely squishy and could die easily if the attention was on me. Out of the 6 world bosses, I struggled with the golden sate named Origmyra. I died a few times and it wasn't because of her, but rather because of the ads that were spawning. Thankfully though, I asked for some help and someone helped me out and we got it done in no time. The 3 I had already done in the past were the Strive Swarm Champion, which is a large bipedal scrib, the giant mud crab named Shellcracker, and finally a netch called Ozacha. Then the remaining 3, Origmyra, who I already spoke about, the Ulaf Ancestors, and finally a Dreg called the Blue Claw Matron. I got an achievement for defeating each of them, and then I got the Defender of Stonefalls achievement for defeating all of the world bosses located here. I continued to fight Origmyra a few more times to test which skills would be best for fighting in situations where there was more ads, but also I only needed a few more weapons to complete all of the remaining sets, and so I got them done too. Moving on, we have the public dungeon. The public dungeon for this zone is really fun and interesting. This one is extremely close to Davon's Watch, and it starts when you find a portal that is disguised as a chest. Entering the portal led me to a pocket of oblivion known as the Crow's Wood, and almost immediately we find a dark elf named Telbaril, who needs help finding his father, who is named Rulantaril. Eventually, I found the Crow's Court, where some talking crows explained that Rulantaril wanted to learn some ancient magic from the Crow Mother, and in exchange he would need to stay with her. But he went back on his word, and so when we find the Crow Mother, we have one of three choices to make. We can either kill both Rulantaril and the Crow Mother, kill only the Crow Mother, or make Rulantaril honour his agreement. The choice I went with is to just kill the Crow Mother, but I'm not sure if this was actually the good choice or not. Anyway, as this is a public dungeon, it did have some champions for me to find. The first one was Grizzlehide, which was a bear, a Nord spirit named Bjorn, a giant spider called Wrathvenom, a giant bat named Shriek-Scorn, and finally a wisp mother called the Moonlit Maiden. All these champions are required for 2 account-wide achievements, but I already got them in the past. However, there was also one more, which was a wraith called Geeslane. This champion is different as it is labelled as a group event, and so the achievement related to it is a character achievement rather than an account one. So after defeating the wraith, I got the achievement for it. So now that I had the public dungeon done, I had to do the part that I was dreading. I decided to go for all the remaining rare fish, as I only had 9 remaining. To make things easy for me, I used as many buffs for fishing as I could, but it still took a pretty long time. I got 8 out of the 9 fish that I needed in only about 35 minutes. However, the last fish I needed, which was a blue rarity rainbow zander fish, took literally just over 2 hours for me to get. Now bear in mind, I had already collected 3 of the rare fish in the past, so if I didn't have them, then who knows, maybe it would have took another 3 or 4 hours, but regardless, after 2 hours and 41 minutes, I finally got the fish I needed. And finally, the last 2 things I needed to complete for this zone was the remaining books in the zone. This took me 2 hours and 58 minutes to find them and read them, and honestly it was one of my favourite parts about completing the zone. The final thing to do was complete all of the side quests. I started off by joining the Undaunted faction, which isn't unique to Stonefalls as they can be found in the first major zone for each alliance. After that, it was just going from one to the next. I'm not going to go too in depth on this section as I'm not sure if that is something people are interested in, so if you are, then let me know in the comments. But 2 things I do want to mention is that perhaps my favourite quest was this one that required me to find a dark elf who was being held in a goblin camp. The reason I enjoyed this one was because you get given a shadow silk gem that you're allowed to keep after you complete the quest. This gem turns you into a goblin, which I thought was pretty cool. The other thing is that there is a quest that was hidden in the zone. What I mean by this is that the usual marker indicating a side quest giver didn't show up, and the only reason I knew about this is because of an add-on that I was using. The quest itself wasn't anything special, but it made me wonder if this was just a bug, or perhaps there are more hidden quests in the other zones in the game. With all these quests now completed and almost 19 hours later, I can say that this zone is finally completed. Like I said before, I'm not going to go over my opinion for the zone in this video, but I will give it a score out of 10 to give you a basic idea of how much I enjoyed the zone. So for Bleakrock, I would give it a 5, Bal Foyen a 4, and Stonefalls a 7. On screen now will be all of the achievements I managed to unlock during the time from starting Bleakrock Isle and reaching the end of completing Stonefalls. There will also be the amount of achievement points I earned. Next in the series we'll be travelling to Deshaan, and I can't remember much about that zone, so I'm really excited to revisit it. Thank you so much for watching and have a great day, and I'll hopefully see you in the next video.